Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to look at 6 more design mistakes I made while designing and building my layout. This video is a reaction to the overwhelming response I got on my video number 54 that looks into 6 other design mistakes I made. I'll post a link after this video to video number 54. So let's look at the first lesson that I learned. I was in such a rush to lay all the track work that I did not align any of the tracks connected to the turntable and the terminal tracks. So why is this a big deal? Well, first off, it means that the longest locomotive you can put on a terminal track is determined by the length of the turntable. So if you have any fancy rolling stock that you want to show off to your friends, well guess what? It's not going through the turntable. And the second point is that you always have to turn the turntable to get one of the locomotives to the terminal. This is especially true for that switcher that you use daily. It would be much more convenient if the turntable would just align and the switcher could just drive straight over it and be spotted at the terminal. Next thing I want to talk about is the depth of your structures. This is the main industry on this part of the layout, so it should have a prominent space. But if you look at the total real estate like this, about 1/3 of it is taken up by this industry. And why? Because I just wanted to model the entire depth of the structure as it came in the kit. But this is really a waste of space. And actually now the industry doesn't look that big. It doesn't really look like it can fill a whole row of boxcars. The next time I'm going to chop this kit in half and spread it out over the entire length. So first off, that would make it look much bigger and probably generate a more interesting looking structure and scene. And it would save me a ton of space right here, because all this width here is not needed to tell the story of what's happening right here. And that would actually leave me a lot of real estate that I could use on this side just to space things out a bit to make it look less crowded. Next runner-up are tight curves and small radiuses. And this is all about your design point. What kind of rolling stock do you want to run on your layout? Obviously, wider curves will always look better than smaller curves, but it's going to be a compromise, so you got to choose some kind of number. And I'm only running 40-foot boxcars and sometimes a 50-foot boxcar and 4-truck locomotive power, so I don't really need wide curves to start off with. Like 20-inch, 22-inch could be good enough. So with that in mind, my radiuses are actually quite fine. But silly me, I wanted to add a passenger train to my roster, so then passenger cars are generally a bit longer, and then I ran into the problem that it just totally does not look nice to have 65-foot passenger cars, or let alone a Bud rail car on my layout. The next one is for when you're designing a layout with various gradients and track heights. You want to really calculate these up front and calculate them well. As you see in the different B-roll footage, it got a bit tight here and there, and that's not really how you should do things. So in video number 47, I discuss the onset of a gradient. This is a very crucial item to look at if you have long steam locomotives and generally for your train to run smoothly and not derail. The onset of your gradient is also exactly where you can make the mistake. You need to keep the length of the onset in consideration when planning your layout. Next item is the backdrop. When I designed my layout, I did not take in consideration the backdrop at all. I thought this would be something I could just easily magically add later on, but that's not the case. So in my next layout, the first thing I'm going to design, make, and paint is the backdrop and the lighting fixture. And only once that's done, I'm going to look at the track work and the modeling stuff. So the last item is a bit of a funny one. This is totally unforeseen. I mean, all the errors and all the points that you can learn from are unforeseen. You're not going to make an error on purpose. But this one was really unforeseen, and it has to do with switching. So let me explain. Here a 2% gradient starts and it slowly goes up behind the backdrop that way. And here you see a spur. And if you want to switch this spur, well, guess what? You got to go against the gradient, got to go up here. This is not always ideal because it forces you to use a certain locomotive power. Where you might want to use a small switcher, well, you can't because you got to go up the gradient. So let me go free-handed on the camera work here. It's the same. This whole area that has to be switched has to go through this turnout, and this is exactly where the gradient starts and the track moves down that way. Especially here with the local, if you have a large area here, you have your cars from the local still stuck to the locomotive. So you're gonna have easily 10 cars and you need to go and fight this gradient. So you're definitely not gonna wanna do that with a small switcher like this. You're probably gonna wanna have a bit more locomotive power. So this next situation, I'm just going to add it to the same category. You need to go through this turnout to switch this area over here, and also this one right here, you have to go in this direction. And lo and behold, there is a tunnel. So you're going to be diving in and out this tunnel constantly to do the switching of this whole area. This is mostly an aesthetics issue. Switching on a grade, you don't really see it that much, but with a tunnel like this, you're going to see it, and I don't really like it. Secondly, I don't think it's very prototypical. How would that even work in the steam era with a steam train in a tunnel without radio communication and trying to switch up and down like that? So to conclude, I still really do enjoy operating my layout, but some things like those tracks on the turntable that don't line up is an absolute eyesore and they keep bugging me every time. I don't want you to make those same mistakes and have those eyesores on your layout, so I really hope you guys learned something from my mistakes. So as I said, this is an add-on and follow up to video number 54. Please see the link to that video right here. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.